I'm already late as it is.
No problem. And we're live, and here I am with Menj, who has debated with TJump. Some of you may have seen this, and that was how I got to hear of the Muslim Apologist. And I'll just be asking you how came to be doing that, and what you thought of the debate, and
Yeah,
any and hopefully we can discuss
of
more
course.
winning strategies for debate against
Sure.
atheists and Islamophobes.
Right, of course. Sure. We're glad to. Yeah.
So you've been doing this for how long, Menj?
Um, Actually, to be honest, Claire, I would actually prefer to be addressed as MENJ because MENJ is actually my initials. Yeah, I don't know why people like to pronounce it as Menj, to be honest. Yeah,
Because it's
yeah, I
a
hope.
rude
Yeah,
word.
yeah, I know. There's no, not really. I mean, there's no really real meaning to the word mensch, to be honest. In fact, there was one several years ago when someone tried to pronounce the name. They said, "Why does it sound like German?" You know, they were alluding to the word mensch, which is MEN. It's spelled MENSH for human. I think if I not
Yes.
MENSCH. I think it
SH,
means SCH. Yeah,
yes,
SCH.
yes.
Yeah. So, but I told them off that I write off that it's not German, it's not English, it's not any other language in the world. It's not even in my native language. It's just initials. Yeah? And there's no
Right.
vowels. So it's just it's. I mean, by right, you should just call it. You just should pronounce it as MENJ, right? So well, you
Maybe
by
you
your
should just
question,
call
yeah.
yourself by a Muslim name so people will kind of, know who you are. You
Well,
know.
the thing is, I want to have a sense of familiarity while at the same time retain my anonymity. Would that sound strange to you if I say this? Because I know it sounds contradictory, but that is what I intend to achieve by using or adopting the name or the in my initials MENJ, right? And
Right.
online, especially online, because yeah, my real name my real birth name, my legal name can easily be found online actually if anyone were to search for it. Yeah, but for online purposes, I would, for the things that I do, especially apologetics. So
Hmm.
and since I'm in Malaysia, which the things especially topics that I touch is can be considered sensitive to some, which is why I try to retain a sense of anonymity, even though I now, in the past I didn't even dare to show my face, but now, because of the rise of YouTube, well, I've changed my approach,
Hmm.
and that is why now you can see me now live giving interviews even on other people's channels. I wouldn't have dared to do this even 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. I wouldn't have even thought of doing this. Okay, so you asked.
Yeah.
So I think you asked when I started doing apologetics. Well, it started way back even in 1999. Yeah, way back in college. Yeah, way
Well,
back in
that's a
college.
long time, and you've
It
had a
was
lot of time to get comfortable with what you're saying and doing. Because
exactly,
when I
exactly.
started, I was anonymous, and then eventually people found out who I was, and then I guess
Yes,
eventually you find yourself more comfortable with what you're doing, and you're not so scared
exactly.
anymore. Um,
Exactly. Pretty much that's what pretty much happened to me as well. So at first I was anonymous, then eventually people realize what I do, who I am, and I never made any attempt to hide myself. So then I realized why should I hide behind anonymity anyway? So I could still retain my somewhat anonymous name online while at the same time show my real face to the world. So that's what I've done. So
mhm,
so
mhm.
far it has worked so far, except for one time where I got sacked from my job. Actually, quite recently. Actually, it was 2 months ago. They found out about this channel, my channel, the Muslim Apologist, and they sacked me because of the
What
content.
really? This is but
Yes, they
you
did.
live in a Muslim country.
Well, even though it's a Muslim country, but the economy is run by non-Muslims, and some non-Muslims may not take too kindly with a Muslim being critical of their religion or their belief system. So, because you see, in Malaysia, religion is always associated with race. So if you're talking about Buddhism, you're almost always talking about the
The
Chinese.
Chinese.
If
Hmm.
you're talking about Islam, you're almost always talking about the Malays. Okay, an
Hmm.
ethnic group which I'm closely related to, but I'm not really affiliated with. And
What
if
you're of mixed parentage? Would you say,
well,
is that?
I wouldn't call myself a Malay, even though officially in the country I would be considered a Malay, but under the law, under the constitution. But I am a Javanese. I'm a proud Javanese, and I'm always uh, loud in exclaiming in proclaiming myself as such. I will never ever consider myself to be a Malay now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you are of Indian citizen, Indonesian
No,
citizenship.
no. I am of the ethnic Javanese race in Malaysia. So my ancestors came from way in the early 1900s from the island of Java in Indonesia. Yes, in what we now know as present-day Indonesia. But at the time, there was no such thing as Indonesia, right? So my ancestors came
What
all the
was
way.
there? What was
Um,
Indonesia before it was Indonesia?
It was just a collection of islands, and there were several sultanates ruling the islands. I would presume, and the Dutch were there colonizing
Hmm.
some of the territories. They before they consolidated it and turned it and call it the Dutch East Indies. So this was way
Ah,
before. This was way before even the Dutch calling it the Dutch East Indies. Okay.
right.
So basically, to cut a very long story short, there was a great catastrophe on the island of Java, which caused great famine. So one of my ancestors decided to
The eruption of Mount
Krakatoa, Mount Krakatoa.
Mount
Yes, yes, it was
Krakatoa.
that
Yes,
long
yes,
ago. Yes. So my
yes.
ancestor left the island to come to what we now know as Malaysia or the Malay Peninsula, and he
Hmm.
settled in the southern state of Johor, and
Hmm.
that's where we have been ever since. So I come from that lineage. Yeah.
Right, right.
Mhm,
Oh,
mhm.
oh, fascinating. So,
Yes, yes.
well, I'm sorry to hear about you losing your job. But what did they say? What was the reason?
Well, the reason is going to make you laugh because they say that my content goes against the freedom of religion and incites people to racial disharmony.
Oh, was there a particular video that they were
I have
focusing on?
never I have never touched anything about race in Malaysia because my content has always been focused on the international and on an international audience, especially. It has never specifically, even though I'm a Malaysian, I
Hmm.
identify myself as a Malaysian, of course, but my
Hmm.
content isn't exactly geared for Malaysians. It's supposed to be for a broad audience, for an international audience. So it doesn't matter who's watching it, whether it's from Indonesia, it's from Malaysia, it's from whether it's from the UK, it's from the Australia, it's from the US. It doesn't matter because it's not supposed to be about race, right? It's not supposed to be about Malaysia even. But unfortunately, this
Hmm.
company, they, I guess they just wanted to find an excuse to fire me. So that's what they did. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. But a lot of people in the West are complaining about being cancelled, but for other reasons, I guess. Um, uh, so, do you do you see yourself as a kind of what a dai? Is that a good word for what you're
Yes,
doing?
a dai is someone who promotes Islam, right? With a caller to Islam, like somewhat like a preacher, I would say.
Hmm.
But the thing is, no, I never considered myself to be a dai. I call myself an apologist first and foremost. Yeah. If someone wants to call me a dai, that's their wish. I mean, they can do that, but I would never call myself a dai because for me, a dai is someone who calls person to Islam. He needs to show a certain set of ethics when it comes to Islam. I don't do that because I don't. My intention is not to convert people. My intention or to make people make people come to a decision to come to Islam. My intention is to show the flaws in other religions vis-a-vis Islam and let them come to their own uh, terms or come to their own decision as to whether they should pursue that path on whether they wish to look further into Islam or to just remain in whatever they wish to believe in. And while
Hmm.
at the same time, I also try to discourage Muslims from ever considering another belief system apart from Islam. That is my goal. That has always been my goal.
I see. So you have quite limited aims. You see Islam
Very
as
limited
being
aims.
demonized in the West, and you want to um,
Exactly,
defend it
exactly,
from the
exactly. Basically, my
demonization
approach.
of
Well,
Western
my
media.
approach. The thing is, my approach may seem offensive to some, but my intentions or my objective has always been defensive, which is the irony. See, yeah, if you can see from
Mhm,
my, from the way I explain my motives, it's clear that I intend it to be a defensive measure.
mhm,
I've never
mhm.
intended it to be offensive, and I have no interest whatsoever to convert anyone or to make anyone become a Muslim or to, hey, you should be a Muslim or else. No, that has never been my intention at all. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Mm.
I'm glad we managed to clear that up. What do you think of Zakir Naik? Because he is a Dai, isn't he?
He is a Dai. He is a Dai. To me, Dr. Zakir Naik has his merits. He is a great person in a way. He has his contributions. But to be honest, I don't adopt his methods because I don't find them to be suited to my own aims and ambitions. Of course, I don't discourage him from what he's doing. He's doing great work. He has done great work. He will continue to great work, inshallah, and I really hope that he will continue his work. But for someone to claim that there are some Islamophobes who actually say that I follow Zakir Naik's methods or so on. I find them laughable because I myself don't ascribe to Dr. Zakir Naik's ideals and aims. You see, so his objectives are totally. We may pursue the similar goals, but our objectives are actually quite different from each other. Yeah.
Right. Just to clear up for anybody who might not be familiar with the word Dai, Dai means an evangelist. Yes, somebody who
Yes. Yes.
da,
Correct. Correct. Yeah. But
that's
although
yes,
I would actually wouldn't like to use the term evangelist because it gives me the impression that it's Christians
is
involved.
Christian. Yes, spreading the
but,
good
but but
news
I
of
understand what you mean.
Islam.
I know where you're coming from. Yes, I get where you're
Yeah,
coming from. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right. Doing
Yeah.
dawah, I suppose
Yes. Yes.
a Dai does dawah.
That's the calling to Islam. I would say a caller to Islam, a preacher to Islam, someone who inspires someone to come to Islam. That would be a nicer way of putting it. I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
So, how many Westerners have you debated apart from TJump?
Um, there's been a few actually on my channel. If you were to look at my channel, I have debated a Jew. That was 2 years ago, and I have debated Ben Bill of Speaker's Corner. There's once. Um, and there's one Indonesian lady whom I've debated as well. Yeah,
Oh,
but
she's not Muslim then.
no, she's not Muslim. No, no, no. None of them. The ones that I've debated, none of them were Muslims. No, yeah. Okay. So yeah, there has actually been a few online debates that I've participated in, but
Yeah.
Tijang was the first person who's an atheist whom I actually debated. So as I mentioned in my review of my post debate analysis on my debate with him, I was really nervous. I was really a wreck.
Well, you didn't really show it that well. I mean, you seemed calm to me, but
Yeah,
I've done.
uh,
You debate with these people, and you know that 99% of the audience hate you anyway.
yes,
So
yes, yeah,
you
yeah,
do have to take that into account, and also
of course.
I don't know if you watched the one yesterday with on modern day debates. There was a Muslim, and the
I think it was
subject was
someone by the name of Muhammad, right? Debating with
yes,
Aaron Ra or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I
yes,
haven't gotten the time to look at it yet because I was busy with stuff. Yeah, but I will get
yeah.
around to watching it. I'll bet that the most of the viewers who were watching that debate are going to be were mostly against the Muslim, I assume.
Well, he was, I thought, a very poor debater because he couldn't
Mhm,
explain his position properly. And I thought,
mhm.
the whole premise was wrong because, if you're going to say, I mean, the best thing you can say about the Quran, in my view, is that it is more scientific than the Bible, and nobody can deny that, because it does
That's
say
not really
things
an
about the.
argument, to be honest. That's
Pardon?
not really an argument. That's not really an argument.
Well, 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 it is an argument in the sense that if that is what you want to prove, you're going to
Mhm,
say
mhm.
that it's better than all the other books that
Yeah,
have anything to
yeah,
say about
yeah.
science, but
Mhm,
it's not a
mhm, mhm.
science textbook. So, you shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
expect it to be a science textbook. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and my position is that the Quran is the best available guide to humanity, and
Yes,
you don't have to
that's
believe
right.
in God to believe it, to accept that
Yes,
position.
that's
Because
right.
I'm
That's right.
I'm I'm an agnostic, and I
Mm-hmm.
see that
Mm-hmm.
the West is in trouble because they don't
Mm-hmm.
have a functioning moral system.
Mm-hmm.
Officially, their moral system is supposed to be Christianity, but
Yes.
you won't be able to find anyone who really believes that Jesus is God. It is, to be doubted that even the Pope or Archbishop of Canterbury believe,
Yeah.
any of that, except that
Mm-hmm.
they'll just pretend to if they want to keep the job. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, what do you think of Ahmed Didat, the late one?
Ahmad Didat. I admire. I do admire the Sheikh Ahmad Didat. I believe that he was the, I would call him the godfather of Muslim apologetics, modern Muslim apologetics. Okay.
Mhm.
Maybe his debating skills may be debatable, but I think some of them made their point across. That being said, there are some information that he had uh, said before during his time, during his active years, which are not really valid to me today. Like for example, he said that Isa, the Arabic name for
Jesus.
Jesus, alayhi salam, he said that he came from Esau, the brother of Jacob. So for me, that is etymologically incorrect. So, but then again, he was limited in his time frame. He was in the 70s. He didn't have access to Hebrew, probably, or Aramaic. He probably did not have enough resources to look it up. So it's not totally his fault. So this is just one example of many, right? So yeah.
So
So this.
Muslims come
Mm.
from which Esau or Jacob? Because Jacob is Jewish, right? And then Esau
Well,
must,
no.
must
Actually, Isho is actually the name for Isa. Isa in Arabic came from the Aramaic Isho. Okay, so Isho has always been the Aramaic name of Jesus in Aramaic. So if you look at the Aramaic text, Jesus's real name, they don't call him Yahishua. They call him Isho Mashika. So Isho Mashika means Jesus the Messiah, and it sounds very similar to the Arabic Isa al Masih. So the Quran is actually correct in using or adopting the Aramaic name of Jesus to its vocabulary. Yeah.
yeah, because I think that the Jews say, well, it's really Jesus is really Joshua,
No,
or
I
kind
don't.
of,
I don't ascribe to that. No, I don't. I
Okay,
don't.
well, I mean, I guess it's not important anyway.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so how I go about it is to say that Christians cannot prove that Jesus is God, because that is what they are supposed to believe in under the
No, they
doctrine
can't.
of the
Def-
Trinity.
Definitely not. Because if you look at, for example, John 17:3, there's, and many other verses like it where Jesus clearly says that he's distinct from the Father. Yeah. And he's calling upon the Father, and he's subservient to the Father. So how is it possible for him to be one and the same with the Father? And let's not forget the Nicene Creed where he says, Jesus is co-equal, co-eternal. And most Christians actually, in fact,
Co-substantial.
yeah, it's co-substantial. Christians actually forget this. Co-equal, co-eternal, co-substantial. Everything has to be equal. So Christians like
So
to
it means that
sometimes
Jesus
say,
created the
mm,
universe, which is
that
absurd.
that is what they believe. If you look at the Nicene Creed, this is exactly what they have to believe.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they don't believe this. So, you can say that if they remain Christian, that it's because they hate Jews and they hate Muslims. And they're actually atheists because they should know, of all people, that the Ten Commandments forbid idolatry and blasphemy. So what
Yes,
is the
that's right.
worship of a deceased Jew? What is it but idolatry? Particularly when they it is part of their narrative that Jesus was convicted of and crucified for blasphemy. So it's not just
Yes,
worshiping
exactly.
any person. It's like somebody who has been convicted of blasphemy against,
Hmm.
the God of Israel, who is also
Yes.
Allah.
Yes,
So,
definitely, most definitely. Yeah.
so I talk to a few Muslims who go to Speaker's Corner, and they say, we know they don't believe it. They only pretend to believe it to annoy us, to annoy Jews and to annoy Muslims to show their hatred.
Do
You
you do
know,
you go to Speaker's Corner often, by the way?
yeah, I do. Yes, from time to time.
Ah,
Um,
I see, I see. Interesting. Yeah.
well,
Interesting.
if you ever come to London, you must,
I
visit
should
on a
I should
Sunday.
I should visit. I should visit one of these days. Yeah, God willing, I will. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very very. I like it. You just go there and you talk politics. You don't have to start with small talk, which you might have to at a party. You just just launch into your favorite subject, and somebody will
Mm.
engage with you. So it's like a
So
cocktail
basically, so
party.
basically, nothing is taboo at Speaker's Corner. You can speak anything under the sun, or is there some limitations?
Well, I mean, people can get quite rude. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a Christian, okay, a Turkish woman
Oh,
from a
you mean
Christian
Hatun? Of course,
background,
I know who
who
she is. I know
drills
who you're
holes
referring
in
to.
the yeah, she drills holes in the Quran and she
I
waves it in
you know
front of
what I call her?
Muslims
I
and
call her the
somebody,
you know what I call her?
yeah,
I call
yeah.
her the banshee of the park because she has this annoying high tone voice which makes I find very difficult to hear her speak.
Yeah, yeah, but it doesn't really matter because obviously she's there to show hatred for Muslims and obviously
Okay.
to provoke Muslims to harm her. And when they do,
I'm
when they
actually
come to
amazed.
Canada
I'm
or
actually amazed
North,
that they allow. I'm actually amazed that they allow her to speak at the park, knowing of her past and what she has done. Why can't they just expel her from the park? I think they have expelled people like Tan. I think you know who Tan is. Was
he's gay,
they
isn't
expelled
he?
him, right? Sorry.
Is he gay? I think he's gay. Was
I
he
don't know
gay?
whether he's gay or not, but there's this guy called Tan who used to come to the park, and I think now he's banned from coming to the park because of his previous inflammatory statements or his previous actions against Muslims
Yeah.
at the park. Yeah, and the sad irony is that Tan is a Malaysian, by the way. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw a YouTube video of him.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Well,
mean,
if the thing is, if he were to say any of the things that or done any of the things that he did at the park, I think he would be in prison by now.
what
He
did he
wouldn't.
do?
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
familiar with all of the
I think
story.
I'm not really sure of the details myself, but he did some very inflammatory things. He insulted the prophet, not on the level as Hatun, but it's enough to get him expelled. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite
I
bad.
think
Yeah.
I think it might
Mhm.
be to do with being male, because I suppose if he's a
Mhm.
guy, um, other men might be less inhibited about hurting him.
Yeah,
While
I
if
see.
it's a
I see.
woman, they say, "Ah, she's just woman. We'll just
Mm.
ignore her," kind of thing.
But Hatun has been hurt twice, I think. Some two at least two people have attacked her at the park, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
is a theory that she is deliberately provoking Muslims to attack her and say, look at these savages, look what they're doing to me,
I'm
and
not surprised.
that kind
Maybe
of thing.
that has been. I mean, that is her intention. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what she wants. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Mm.
there's nothing left other than martyrdom for
Mm-hmm.
Christians, because they can't win the argument. They can't,
Mm.
it's hard enough to prove that God exists to somebody who doesn't want to believe in it. But, not only do they have to prove that God exists, they have to prove that Jesus is God. It's
Mm.
impossible.
It's not just that.
So,
It's also the text because the New Testament itself is flawed. And I've just had this interview or discussion or discourse or whatever you want to call it with this professor, Dr. Dale B. Martin, from the retired professor from Yale University. He and I had a fascinating discussion on the New Testament, on the epistles, on Jesus, on the historical Jesus. So some things he said about the New Testament would make a lot of evangelical Christians uncomfortable. And you will see this video next week, inshallah. Yeah.
3rd
Okay.
of March, right? That's
Yes,
when,
3rd of March. There's the
yeah,
video.
I
Yes,
had to look
correct,
at your
correct, correct, correct. That's the
great.
video. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I would say that the New Testament, you know, is not even the word of Jesus, let alone of God.
It's
While
not.
Jews and
Yes, never
Muslims
been.
at least can say, well, we believe that the Torah was given to Moses on Mount Sinai, and Muslims can say we believe that the Quran is the directly revealed word of Arabic,
Yes,
recited through Muhammad.
yes.
Because a lot of Islamophobes think Muhammad wrote the Quran.
Yes,
You know,
exactly. So basically the New Testament uh is a collection of writings written by anonymous authors, even among the 12 epistles of Paul, only seven are authentic.
Seven, right?
Only
Indeed,
seven
seven.
are confirmed to be written by him, right? The rest are
Mhm.
unknown authors. And another interesting thing is that the Gospel of Luke Acts, the author of the Gospel of Luke Acts, because we don't know who wrote the Gospel of Luke and Acts, it's attributed to the historical Luke, but it's not. It was not the historical Luke who wrote it. So this anonymous figure had a different theology compared to that of Mark and Matthew. So that is why he wrote his gospel. And the Gospel of John itself has a totally different theology to the other three Gospels. So it's quite a mess actually. If you look at the history of the New Testament, it's a real mess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Mm.
don't know if you've seen a documentary called Caesar's Messiah.
Yes,
Have
I've
you
I've
heard?
seen it. Yes, I've heard of it, but I've seen only parts of it, bits and pieces of it, because it's not really the full version isn't really floating online. So,
Oh,
but I
oh, you can
managed
find it
to
on
actually, yeah.
YouTube, and
Yes,
also I
uh, okay,
it's
I'll
90
try to.
minutes.
I see, I see.
I'll send it
I
to
did
you. I'll send it to you.
I did see clips of it. I saw I think Dr. Price was on it, and I saw James Tabor in it, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure. There were several scholars whom I recognize who were interviewed in this documentary. So I think that basically the premise was Christianity was founded by a family of the Roman emperor, if I'm not mistaken, something
Yes,
like this. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, that's the basic premise.
yes,
Mm, mm,
and that the New Testament was actually written by the Roman propaganda department, because the Romans,
mm,
being an
mm,
imperialist
mm,
nation,
mm,
would just,
mm,
they take over a country and they have to somehow absorb the conquered nation into part of their family of nations. And what they would do is basically add the god of the country that they've conquered, and say,
mm,
your god is now our god, we can all worship, your gods
mm,
all
mm.
together because we're
I
one
see.
big happy family. And
Mhm, mhm,
that was how they worked. I mean, I think Mecca was founded on that basis, right? Because Mecca had
mm.
all those different deities, and all these pagans would come and go. Well, they
Well,
would go to Mecca.
Mecca wasn't ruled by a single family. Even during the time of the Prophet, there was no government in Mecca, because you see, even though Mecca was actually a metropolitan city during the time of the Prophet, it was a trading city, a center of the peninsula, of the Arab Peninsula, where everyone would come there to trade, and not just that, but also to perform their pilgrimage. Unfortunately, the pagans took over Mecca at the time, so there were a lot of idols at the holy shrine of the Kaaba. But the thing is, there was no ruling dynasty or government. There was no proper government in place at Mecca during this time. It was basically the Arab tribes were so feuding among themselves that they couldn't even agree on a form of government. Who would they choose as a leader among them, because each of them think that they are superior to each other. So what happened was that they created a community of sorts called I don't remember the name of the committee, but it's a group of 12 tribes. The head of each tribes become part of this committee. So each of them are allowed to speak and to represent their tribe's concerns and to govern Mecca equally. But there was no leader among them, like a prominent leader. No, not in the same way as a king or a president or a prime minister, etc. Not in that sense. Yeah.
Yes, I remember a story about Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, when he solved a problem of these sort of warring
Yes. Yes.
committee
That was.
members,
Yes.
and that
Exactly.
it was something
Exactly.
about carrying something away, and
Yes. Yes. So
they all fought
basically, it
for
was.
the right to
Yes.
carry it away themselves, and
Yeah.
and
Yes. That's right.
the
That's right. So basically, it's
Muhammad
like
said,
this. The
put it on
story
on
goes.
a yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the story goes. The building of the Kaaba was ruined because there was a major flood. And so the Arab tribes gathered together to rebuild the Kaaba. Okay, together, all the 12 tribes gathered together. So when it came to finally putting the cornerstone, which we know as the Hajar al Aswad, the black stone, that Islamophobes love to talk about the black stone, right? But this is the same black stone. So when they wanted to put this last cornerstone in the building, there was a great bickering among them because they couldn't decide who would get the honor of placing the stone in at the last piece, the last cornerstone into the Kaaba. So they were almost going to war over it. So one of them decided, okay, let's wait for someone to come at this doorway. There was a doorway at the time. So that person who comes through that doorway will make a decision concerning who will put the stone in this last spot. So they waited, and it so happened that the Prophet Muhammad himself came through the doorway, and the rest, as they say, is the same as your story. So they placed. So what the Prophet did was he asked the tribes to put the stone on a cloth. So each of these tribes, the representatives of the tribes, they hold the cloth at each corner, so all 12 of them. So they carried the stone together to the spot, and the Prophet himself took the stone and placed it at the Kaaba. So end of story. So the problem was solved, and there was no war.
Very good. Very good.
Yes, yes,
Um,
that is the story, and we are taught this story since very young. So we Muslims know this story by heart. Yeah.
uh, well, I'm
Mm.
glad you could tell it to us.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Mm.
uh, and having read the Quran and explored the theology of the other two Abrahamic religions,
Yes.
it just seems obvious to me which one is would be the one to choose. And my next question to you would be to ask you how your debate with the Jew went.
It's very hard to say. Actually, I think he was trying to provoke me in a way, but I tried to keep calm, and somehow the debate uh, came from trying to prove Islam wrong and Judaism right to let's come to common terms with each other, and let's agree to disagree, basically. And he did concede that Islam's theology, basically the affirmation of the belief in the one true God Abraham, is more true than that of Christianity. He couldn't deny this, and although he has, I think, or he still has, I assume, reservations about the prophethood of Muhammad, he could accept the Muslim position of rejecting the Trinity, and I guess we just agreed to disagree, and that's how the debate ended. Actually, yeah.
Right? Was he a rabbi?
I think he wasn't a rabbi. He was a student. He was. I think he was a. I think you could say he was a convert to Judaism. I think his previous background was Christianity, but I could tell that he really hated Jesus, because each time Jesus's name came up, he was actually uttering the Jewish curse. I forgot the Jewish curse. The Jewish curse is translated as may his name be blotted out. Okay, so this is a Jewish curse in Hebrew. Yeah, I
Right.
can't recall the Hebrew phrase, but what the Hebrew phrase meant was that his name be blotted out. Okay, so this is
Right.
actually a famous Jewish curse. Yeah. Mm.
Yes.
So
Well, I must
yeah,
listen
so
to your video.
yes,
Does
it's
it have a
actually
title?
yes,
I
it's
mean,
called
what is
Menj versus Torah Emet Ahof or something like this. I don't remember. You need to
okay? Well,
do a
I'll
search. Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
look it up.
Go ahead and look it up. It's on my channel. It's still on my channel. Yeah, it's still.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
I have this way of raising the subject with Jews because you know the way Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know if you deal with have to they knock on your
I've
door,
never
but
dealt with a Jehovah's Witnesses yet so far. I haven't come across. I
but
haven't even.
basically they
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
carry
haven't
on.
even dealt with
Sorry.
a Mormon yet.
Uh-huh. But,
Yeah.
but I mean, what they do is they knock on your door and they invite you to complain about the government, and of course that's a way of engaging with us, and we have so much we want to
Mm,
complain about, and for Jews, it's like you assume that they are concerned with anti-Semitism because
yeah,
they think everybody hates them, and maybe they do. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
I'm not one of them, but
yeah.
but I mean, you could argue that if God is responsible for good and evil, and if anti-Semitism is an evil, then God created anti-Semitism to punish Jews for their disobedience. And they kind of
Mm,
have to accept that, because I think it's part of their thing to even thank God for misfortune, because they're supposed to think that even misfortune like every cloud has a silver lining, so they may learn something from their misfortune, and in the end grow wiser,
Yes.
or that kind of reasoning. So
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So basically, actually, I would put it a different way. I would say that the reason why the Jews are being has gone through such calamities and tragedies, etc., is that God wanted to test them and to see whether they are truly firm believers in the faith or in the one true God of Abraham. So whether they have passed this test or not, I guess the results we can see for ourselves.
mm.
Basically,
Are you
personally,
familiar with the
for yeah.
no-hike laws? Sorry, what were
Yes,
you going to
yes,
say?
very much, very much. Yeah, very much. Yeah, going back to what you said just now. Yeah, no height loss. Yes, the seven no height loss. Of course, I'm very familiar with it. So, yeah, going back to what I said. Basically, my opposition to Judaism or to the Jews today is not really because of their theology. It's more towards their ideology of Zionism. So, I wouldn't criticize their ideology much, or I mean, their religion much per se, but as for Zionism, I'm a very much tough critic of it. Yeah, and there's one video which I made, where I actually criticize Zionism openly. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So what I mean, it's obvious that they haven't been teaching the no-hide laws to Gentiles. I mean, my thesis is that God made Jews his chosen people to teach the no-hide laws, right? I mean, can
I
you?
think that I don't think that's how they see it. They see it as if the other Gentile or the other non-Jews or Gentiles adopt laws which are similar to what they call Noahide laws, then they accept them, they embrace them. But Jews themselves are not beholden to, or are not. It's not incumbent upon them to teach other people the Noahide laws. Yeah, it's just that they want to have some sort of inclusivity for other. Let's say, for example, if a Jew travels throughout the land, and this particular Jew founds a tribe where he finds that they don't eat pork, they reject idolatry, they worship a concept of God, etc. But they are not Jews. So they would include these non-Jews, as this particular Jew would include this particular group of non-Jews as part of the Noahide law of the larger ambit of the Noahide community. But a Jew or Jews themselves are not beholden, or are not. It's not incumbent upon them to teach
Yeah,
the Noahide laws to others. Yeah. Mm,
I
mm,
know this is controversial,
mm,
but
mm,
I don't know
mm.
if you've heard of Rabbi Schneerson,
No, I have not. I have
Menachem
not. Sorry.
Mendel Schneerson. Well, he
I'm
was
afraid
a
I've not.
kind. He,
Mm,
well, he's dead now, but he was very kind of a rock star in the 80s, and
okay.
he was the one who said that it is the incumbent on Jews to promote the no-hide laws, and
Okay.
he managed to get President Carter to
Hmm.
establish a day called Education and Sharing Day
Okay.
um,
That's
in,
interesting.
in, in
I
April.
didn't know this. I wouldn't know
Mhm.
this. Yeah. Mm, mm,
In
okay.
April every year, around April, yeah, because it's birthday and the Jewish calendar is a bit,
Okay.
um, um, it moves around.
Yeah.
And so, but if you talk to most Americans, they won't have heard of it, and and those who've heard of
Mm,
it don't like the idea because they're mostly anti-Semites, and they
I
think it's
see.
sinister Jewish plot. But so my thesis begins from that the quickest way that Jews can teach the no-hide laws is to rank the other the four Gentile religions. So that would
Mm,
be Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism.
mm-hmm,
And
hmm.
and I'm basically saying um, Islam is Judaism light. They have the same.
No doubt
Um,
about it. No doubt
yeah,
about it.
so
Because
so of course
basically,
that would be
yeah.
the most
Mm.
no hide Gentile religion, and after that comes Buddhism, because although you see lots of statues of Buddhas and Buddhists worshipping,
Yeah.
apparently bowing before the idols of the Buddha, they are technically an atheist philosophy because
Yeah,
they
basically,
they don't talk
Buddha
about
never
God.
thought that he's God, or that people should create idols. In fact, he never talked or discussed the concept of God at all in his philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. So you could say, well, Buddhism is the comes after Islam because it's
Mm,
atheist, and then you have
mhm,
Hinduism. It's obviously
mm.
idolatry, obviously, and
Yes,
then
yes.
and then I say Christianity is right at the bottom because not only do they worship Jesus in an idolatrous way, they worship him knowing full well that he was convicted of and crucified for blasphemy. So they are the bottom of the heap.
Well, actually, I would put the Christians a bit higher up because they actually acknowledge that God is one. It's just that they have this confused idea about God. Yeah, so it's just due to confuse. I will give them some leeway in uh, in their understanding of God. So I would actually rate them a bit higher than the Hindus because at least they will reject the idols that Hindus worship. Yeah.
Well, but they worship different ones, and I imagine if God exists, he would be, more offend. It's like, okay, the Hindus, well, they're just innocent. They never heard of, the Abrahamic God. They never heard of Jesus. It's like, in a way, it's a natural thing. A lot of
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
the most
Yeah.
primitive form of worship is to think,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
nature is so wonderful. This
Yes.
tree is so beautiful. The mountain, this, whatever, and then they want to worship it. So
Yes.
in a way, it's innocent. But Christianity, it's like, how can we annoy the Jews? Because according to the Joseph Atwill's book, Caesar's Messiah, that documentary we were talking about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
he was saying that the Romans actually created the propaganda of Jesus in order to punish the Jews for
That's interesting.
revolting, for rebelling against them. And there were all these Jewish wars, and they were
Mm-hmm.
very troublesome to the Romans. And
Mm-hmm.
it was only after a lot of fighting that they finally
Yeah.
managed to subdue Jewish rebellion. So
Mm-hmm.
and they also knew that the imperial cult of Rome was failing because nobody really believed in it. The upper classes who, of course, they can easily cook up some story and make the people believe in it, or at least say this is our
Mm-hmm.
official religion now. But they themselves didn't believe in it, so they
Mm-hmm.
were getting more and more corrupt. And before Constantine the Great, who was the first
Yeah.
Roman emperor to
Mm-hmm.
adopt Christianity,
Yep.
he sort of knew that he had to change the religion, and people don't change their religion unless something has gone badly wrong
Exactly.
with
Exactly.
their lives.
I've always find that story about Constantine suddenly waking up one day and decided to become a Christian to be very dubious because this guy was a very um staunch idolatry. He worshipped the sun. He called upon the Sol Invictus. In fact, even today there are inscriptions of Constantine. If I'm not mistaken, even in Italy today, in Rome, I don't. There's this arch. I don't remember what this arch is called, where there's this carving of Constantine's victory over his
Hadrian's Arch,
opponent.
maybe.
I maybe that may
Yeah,
be the
I'm not
arch
sure
that you're
myself.
talking about.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not sure myself. I need to check again, later on. But I think it was that arch where he drew this. I mean, he had this carving of him being triumphant over his enemy, but there was no cross on it. Nah, that's interesting, isn't it? There was no Christian motif on it. So why would a Christ?
Constantine
Yeah,
didn't really become a Christian until his deathbed. He was never a
yes.
Christian. Well, he only converted
Yeah,
up, when
but
he
the
was
thing
about
is,
to die.
but the thing is, the Christian sources say that he became Christian before his deathbed, and he actually declared Christianity to be the religion of the empire, right? So isn't it interesting that that particular carving where he declared his victory over his enemy doesn't have any Christian, markings
Mm,
or anything that identifies himself as a Christian, but
mm,
it does identify him as a pagan. So that's an interesting point there.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were talking about the Council of Nicaea earlier, and,
Mhm,
and,
mhm,
and
mhm.
basically it was Constantine calling the bishops, the Christian
Yes,
bishops,
that's
to
right.
to Nicaea to
That's
agree
right.
on a doctrine, right? It's like,
Exactly, exactly.
you have
Mm.
to come and agree on this, whatever it is that
Yes,
you people
yes,
are supposed to believe in. You have to agree
exactly.
on it, and they
Yes,
couldn't even agree.
basically there was this great dispute between Arius and Athanasius. I won't bore you with the details, but basically they were arguing over the nature of Jesus. So Constantine was tired of this feud. He was afraid that it would split his empire. He was only concerned about preserving his empire, but he saw it as an opportunity to unite, to unite his empire under one state religion. So That's why he called the council to force them to come to an agreement or something of the sort. But we don't. But you see, the thing is, we don't know what actually transpired at this council. You see, what why is it that all these bishops decided to gather together and agree on this particular
Because
doctrine that yeah,
he called them,
yeah,
because it's like,
yes,
well, if you guys come and you agree a doctrine, then I can
mm-hmm,
use it. But as it is with all of you, they were
mm,
Gnostics at the time. So basically,
yes,
a Gnostic would be, I think, a
yes,
kind of snake oil salesman
exactly,
using
yes.
Jesus to
Because you
sell
see,
your their
there were
snake
many
oil.
Christianities in this early part of Christian of of the Roman Empire, right? So there were many competing versions of Jesus. Okay, some believe he was God, some believe he was not God, some believe he was archangel. So see, you see, there's so many. So how do we know which one is right? Yeah, see. So why does he need to take a council to decide on what the nature of Jesus is? Why did it take so long to come to this decision that Jesus is co-equal, co-eternal, co-substantial with the Father? See, so it's a long story behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they couldn't agree because a
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
minority of the bishops were behind Bishop
Areas.
Arius,
Yeah. Yes. Areas. Yeah.
which later
Yes.
became to be called the Arian heresy, which
Exactly.
is
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
is what the Jehovah's Witnesses believe, because they're
Mm-hmm.
basically saying,
Exactly.
well, Jesus is a little bit divine, but obviously not as divine as the Abrahamic God who created the
Basically,
universe.
what Arius believed was that Jesus was subservient to the Father, but Jesus was still divine in some way.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
idolatry. I mean, according to
It
the
is
Jews.
idolatry, of course, it's idolatry. But yeah, we're not going
Yeah,
to, you know, debate about it because both of them are wrong. Actually, obviously, both Arius and Athanasius are wrong. It's just that who is more wrong, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. But in the end, it doesn't matter actually whether Arius, even if Arius had won the debate, I think Christianity would still be doomed because it would still be an idolatrous religion. So it didn't really
Exactly.
matter whether, because it didn't really matter whether it was Athanasius or whether it was Arius. Both of them were wrong, and
Mhm.
Christianity is doomed from the start because both of them had totally wrong theology or a totally wrong understanding of Jesus, of who Jesus was. Yeah.
Yes. I
Mm,
mean, there's so much, to go into, but
mm,
I think we can kind of agree, can't we, that
yeah.
Constantine felt he had to take a new religion in order to unify his
Yes.
empire,
Yes.
and
I agree.
basically that was why he called the Council of Nicaea.
Yes.
I mean,
Yep.
he knew at least that he didn't have the authority to say what Christian doctrine should be,
Yep.
so he got the bishops, who had the moral, the divine authority to do it.
Yes.
But
Yes. Definitely.
I want to invite people to consider whether Constantine would have chosen Christianity if Islam had been available. I'm saying no way would he have done that. He would have just sort of, well, I'm going to adopt Islam because it's ready to go. Because
Well, you see, the thing is, in the Islamic understanding of things, we believe that Islam is the primordial religion, right, from the time of Adam. So, to us, Muslims, Adam was a Muslim, uh, Moses was a Muslim, David,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Solomon
yeah, they
were
get really
Muslims. All of
annoyed
them were
with you for
Muslims.
calling all their prophets
Yeah, I
Muslim.
know. I know they are
Abraham's
annoyed, but
Muslim,
the thing is,
Moses
they
Muslim.
don't.
How
You
dare
see,
you?
the thing is they don't understand because you see, it's just a term. It's just a title. It's not. Yes, no. It's not. It's not. It's not an identifier as how you call a Jew, or a Christian or a Hindu a Hindu. You see, a Muslim is basically is just it just means in Arabic someone who submits. It's a
Submitting
verb.
to
Yeah,
natural law,
or
submitting
some
to truth,
you
logic, and
well,
morality, I
well,
would say.
you're not a Muslim, so you would probably understand it differently. But for me, as a Muslim, it means submitting to the one true God. Okay, so that is why we say that all the prophets, even Jesus, were Muslims. So basically, what Jesus taught, or what his true message was Islam, or what not the Islam that we know now, that is the one that is brought by the Prophet Muhammad, but Islam as brought by Jesus. You see, so that is why sometimes Islamophobes, they don't understand this, or Christians, they find, I don't know, they find it to be too sensitive for them to accept. I don't know why, because Islam can actually be a very all-encompassing religion if they allow it to. But it's just their biases and their myopia and their hatred of what what the message of Islam is that has clouded their judgment and their minds. You see, yeah.
Yeah, natural law is, as far as I understand it, something that is discernible through reason. So if you think about
Mm,
something,
mm,
it's sort of like, well, if if there was a creation, there must have been a creator, and that creator, must have been God. If you want to think,
yes.
so
Yes, because
that's logical. You don't need.
that is why going back to the debate between me and TJump, there was one part where I asked him, right, if I were to throw a bunch of Lego blocks onto the ground, would those bunch of Lego blocks suddenly become a castle? His answer was the laws of physics doesn't support it. But then again, what law of physics would support the idea that when you throw something on the ground, it will turn into a castle? You see,
Mm,
so
mm.
I unfortunately I didn't quite you know attack him on that point. So I was wasting my time arguing on minute details when I should have just gone for the juggler, because I think I gave him too much respect and I was nervous. I gave him too much respect. There was some inadequacy in my understanding of his understanding of atheism, etc. So all these factors
Mm.
came into play. So that is why I couldn't deliver the way
You
that
you
I
can
wanted
only
to.
get
Yeah.
better if you keep doing it,
Of
and
course, of course, of course. I hope so. I hope so. But the thing is that the funny or the sad irony is that some Muslims, you believe it, there were Muslims who actually say this to me after the debate. They said that if you want to debate, uh, it's better that you do not debate at all. They actually said this to me. So how am I
well,
supposed to get better in a debate if I don't debate? See,
well, the thing is, I mean, in a way, that there's a lot of treachery and backstabbing from the people who are supposed
I
to be
see it.
on your
I see
side.
it. I see it as treachery. Definitely, I see it as treachery and backstabbing. I mean, I don't expect you to agree with my arguments. I may have been a weak debater. I don't know. I do admit that I had my failings, but then again, they need to keep in mind that that was my first debate with an atheist online. Okay, my debates prior to this has always been with Jews or Christians. So
Mhm.
with a Christian, I think my approach would have been totally different. I would have been in full confidence because look at my books. Okay, the majority of them are Christian books. Okay, will you
Mhm.
believe it? That's the thing. So I have full confidence if I were to go into a debate against a Christian. But if you were a Jew, probably, yeah, 50-50. I don't know. No, not 50-50. Probably
Oh,
60
good.
40 Okay, but with an
Mhm.
atheist, yeah, it's going to be the difference is going to drop a lot. Okay, so because
Well,
I have
well,
not been exposed to debates with atheists. You see, yeah.
yeah. Well,
Mm.
let me put to you these ideas that I have for debating with all these groups. So
Mm-hmm.
for Christians, I think that they're very easily dealt with, but because
Mm-hmm.
they can't explain even to themselves why and how Christianity is not idolatry and
Yes.
and and blasphemy, and they can't
Yes.
explain even to themselves how Jesus is God. Because
Exactly.
once
Exactly.
you ask them how is Christianity not idolatry and blasphemy, I mean the best they can come up with is it's not idolatry and or blasphemy to worship Jesus as God if he is God, and then how is he God? That would be the killer question,
But that
and
is
and,
that
and
is
then
circular
they'll say
reasoning
that
for them. This is the thing that they are using the circular reasoning. That's the
yes,
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Mm.
So for Jews, it's like, well, okay, you're the guys who kickstarted the whole idea of the God of Israel, who
Yes.
is also
Yes.
Allah. But
Yes.
you have these seven no-hike laws, and
Mm.
you haven't really taught them because the past three global empires have been Christian,
Mm.
and
Mm.
hardly anybody has heard of the no-hike laws. So you haven't been
Mm.
teaching them properly, and
Yeah.
you won't be ranking the four Gentile religions because I've asked them to do that for
Mm-hmm.
years, and they say, "Are
Mm.
you crazy? It's dangerous." Meaning that the Christians are really going to persecute them if they dare to say that Christianity is idolatry and blasphemy.
Mm.
Leaving it
Mm.
to me to say these things, and I also know that Muslims are also commanded to admonish those who claim that God has begotten a son. Chapter
Yeah.
18, verse 4. You guys
Mm-hmm.
don't do that either. So I don't think,
Mm.
Muslims can, completely stand on the moral high ground. I mean, the assumption is that, both Jews and Muslims are a little afraid of their Christian overlords because, they have a global empire and you don't want to
Yeah.
annoy them too much. And, and,
Yeah.
and, uh,
Yeah.
and I think the only Muslims who've made it much of Islam is the Iranians, because they had their Islamic revolution, and before
Mm.
that they were just being exploited by the Western imperialists, and after that they were able to defy the might of America and its allies. So
Mm.
the Shias are the ones who actually made it work for them,
Well,
while
I have my theological disputes with the Shia, but let's not get to that. Yeah, I'm a
Mhm,
Sunni. By the way, I'm a very staunch Sunni, and yeah, I have my theological differences with Shia. Yeah.
mhm.
Mm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
for political reasons, the Iranians used Islam to unify their nation and
Yes, they did. Yeah.
deal with
Mm.
the
Mm.
America and its
Yes.
allies,
Yes.
and it's
Correct.
in a better
Yeah.
position now than it was before under the Shah,
Mm.
as far as
Mm.
I can see.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
then the Jews, I think. It would be useful to. Are you aware there are 36 capital offences in the Torah for Jews?
Sounds familiar, but refresh my memory if you can.
Well, basically, it's like you get the death penalty for every little thing. It's death for you if you're a sodomite, an adulterer, if you're guilty of
Wow.
idolatry, guilty of blasphemy, you break the Sabbath, you pick sticks up on Saturday, and most interesting of all is that if you become a citizen of a city that has gone astray, it's death by beheading. It's called Ernie Dachat, and basically, my argument is that if you are a Jew and a citizen of any Western nation that considers itself part of Christendom, you are guilty of Ernie Dachat. You are a citizen of a city that has gone astray, and you have clocked up one penalty of death by beheading. So
Mm.
there are lots of Jews in Christendom. I think half the Jews are in America, they say, and the other half are in Israel. So,
Yeah, but
it's
but
like,
but that's the thing. You see, these days, I think, especially the Jews in America, they have already become mostly secular, if I'm not mistaken, right?
yeah,
Mm.
that's okay. But I mean, if I could explain to you
Yeah,
my
sure,
further
sure.
reasoning.
Go ahead. Yeah,
So,
sure.
so for Jews, it's like, okay, they think they're special because they were chosen, and they're the kind of, they think that they're superior to Muslims because they're so few and so special, and they're so wise and so learned, and
Yeah.
I can concede that you can you're the aristocracy of humanity. You suffer all these terrible persecutions, but still
Mhm.
you carry on with your religion that is so much
Yeah.
more restrictive than Islam, and
Yeah.
well done you. But think of these 36 capital offences, um,
Yes.
because if you don't get punished for being a citizen of a city that's gone astray in your lifetime, it just means that
Hmm.
when you die, they're waiting for
Hmm.
you in the afterlife. So you have to um,
Yeah.
um, have to suffer death by beheading after you are dead, and
Hmm.
whatever ones that you clocked up,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it's so harsh and so restrictive. So the
Yeah.
only way you can escape all these terrible punishments waiting for you in the afterlife is to convert to Islam.
Well, you see, about regarding the afterlife, I believe the Jews are divided on this, because there are some Jews who actually believe that there is an afterlife, and there are some who don't. There's two groups. Hence, why the Pharisees and the Sadducees exist. If I'm not mistaken, it was the
Well,
it's
the
the yeah.
Sadducees are
Mm,
extinct now. So the rabbis
yeah.
come from they're descended from the Pharisees. So.
I see. I see. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe this thinking may
And the
still
13
be around. I
principles
don't
of
know. Yeah. Mm, mm,
Are you
mm,
familiar
mm.
with the 13 principles of Judaism?
Sounds familiar, but yeah. Again,
Yeah.
refresh my memory. Yeah. Mm.
So basically, they're required to believe that God is created the universe and exists
Okay.
outside it as pure spirit. So
Okay.
therefore, there is a definite um, um, border between the creator and his creation, and they're not to, be confused, because to confuse God and his creation is to be guilty of idolatry. And
Okay.
also they're required to believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished, either in
Mm-hmm.
this life
Mm-hmm.
or in the next, and they are
Mm-hmm.
required to believe in an afterlife, though the Torah doesn't really say what kind of, what it would be like. Only the Quran,
Mm-hmm.
says it in,
Mm-hmm.
in great detail. So they
Mm-hmm.
are required to believe in an afterlife, and you
Mm-hmm.
may know
Okay.
that some Orthodox Jews believe in reincarnation, and they're
Mm.
okay about it. It's like, as long as you believe in an afterlife, that's okay. We're not going to say you have to believe in heaven and hell,
I
afterlife, or
see.
reincarnation
Okay.
afterlife, as long as you believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished at some
I
time
see.
in the
I see.
future.
I see. I see. Okay. So this is what they believe. Okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so their laws are very clear, because if they say, "Oh, we believe in the Torah; it's the word of God," it's like, yeah, the 36 capital punishments, and they apply to you. And he never rescinded any of them and said, "Oh, don't worry about it, Jews. It's okay. Forget about the nidachat thing." So it still applies,
Mm-hmm.
and according to their book, they're going to get it in the neck, when if they're
Mm-hmm.
citizen of any Western nation, when
Yep.
they go and meet their maker, and therefore the
Mm-hmm.
only way of escaping it is to convert to Islam. But they might say, "Oh, we don't believe it," and then we can accuse them of becoming, of being really atheists. Because if you don't
Mm-hmm.
believe God punishes you, then you obviously don't believe the Torah thing, and so you're really an atheist. And if God exists, He'll be even angry with you for pretending to
Mm-hmm.
believe in God when in fact you're an atheist.
Mm,
So
very interesting viewpoint there. Well, maybe that's the reason why the Jews had lived with the Muslims in Al-Andalus, Muslim Spain, for centuries. Was that the reason? Because of this?
Well, well, according to Islam, chapter 2, verse 256 says there is no compulsion in
Yeah,
belief.
La
Truth
ikraha
stands
fid din.
clear
Yeah, I can even recite
from
the
error.
Arabic. Yeah, La ikraha fid din. Yeah, no, it's not compulsion in religion. Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah.
And what I say is that, to the Americans especially, who are just overflowing with Islamophobia, is that the American Republic was founded on Islamic on that verse. The First Amendment is based on
Yes,
chapter 2,
yes,
verse 256. There is a
yes,
White House Quran. It did belong
yes.
to Thomas
Yes,
Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson had a personal copy of the Quran. He actually scribbled notes in it, and he actually read the Quran. So he knew
Yeah.
Islam, what Islam was like. Yeah, yeah. And I believe that there are many articles or books floating around on the web. Actually, this
Mhm.
happened like years ago. I came across all this kind of material where it says that the first Americans who came to settle in America, some of them were even Muslims. Even the first black slaves that were captured and sold as into slavery in the United States, what we now know as continental United States. Some of them were Muslims. Yeah, there has been some evidence of this, I think. So, but of course, nothing conclusive. Yeah, yeah. There was this one particular article where I came across where it was a Muslim prince that was captured in a battle by his opponent, and he was sold into slavery and was brought to America. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
a Muslim. But I'm not sure what happened to him after that. I forgot the name of the guys. All this stuff that I read, this was like years ago. Yeah, I don't
Mhm.
really dive into this much, to be honest, because like I said, my focus has always been on Christianity, so hence my stuff here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
Christianity is that, they don't really believe that Jesus is God. They can't explain it, and therefore,
yes,
you know,
yes, yes,
but
yes.
really, I don't think it's even worth talking to them, because you're just going to get, they will be able to come up with some form of words to insult you and deny what you're saying, and really
Well, the thing
it's
is,
the Jews.
yeah,
Yeah.
like as I said earlier on in this stream with you, Claire, my intention is not really to convert anyone or to make anyone become a Muslim. My intention, first and foremost, is to defend Islam from the attacks, to give the reasons why. I as a Muslim would reject Christianity. From people like David Wood, Sam Shamoun, Christian Prince, they keep pushing Muslims, keep saying why are you a Muslim? Why are you a Muslim? Because the Prophet did this, the Prophet did that, the Prophet was this, the Prophet was that. Then I am here to give my evidence why I believe that Christianity is false. If you do not want to accept this, it's absolutely fine, but leave us Muslims alone. Yeah, this is my parameter. So my measures has always been defensive, and of course, my content is meant for Muslims who may have doubts, who may have second thoughts about Islam. So my content is meant to clear their doubts and concerns. Yeah, this has always been my objective. I'm not a da'i. I've never claimed to be one. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I live in the West, and that
Mm.
it's a matter of concern to me that they seem
Mm.
to be um, well, a little mad. We know what they're doing in the Ukraine. They're starting another war.
Yes, yeah. I'm
What the
observing.
hell
I'm
are they
observing.
doing?
I'm observing the Russia-Ukraine dispute very closely, because whatever happens there would affect the rest of the world, and I think it's going to have a very serious impact, even in my part of the world, because globalization. So
Hmm.
it will affect us. It will
Yeah,
definitely
yeah. And
impact us in
I'm
some way.
saying that, that
Mm.
Western governments are, okay, America in particular is behaving like a belligerent drunk. When somebody's drunk and drinking and trying, and shouting at people and saying, do you want to fight? And
But the thing is, to be fair to to President Joe Biden, I think he has done much better than his predecessor. I think if it were his predecessor who were the president now, I think what the fella would have done is to press the red button. He wouldn't have done. He wouldn't have made a second thought about it. So at least
I,
Joe Biden is much more rational than that. But I don't know whether he's going to uh, attack Russia or otherwise. I don't know. I can't say. But from what I've seen so far, he's trying to his hardest to avoid war. I'm not trying to praise Joe Biden or anything of the sort, but like I said, I'm comparing him with his predecessor. Really hate his predecessor. Okay, to be honest, his predecessor was an a-hole. Okay, to mince my words. Okay, so I would say that,
he was
yeah,
against neoconservatism too. To be
but
fair to Trump, he said, no more pointless foreign wars. That was
well,
what.
I don't know, because to me he's responsible for inciting the January 6th insurrection. So I can't say
Well,
much.
I don't think it was just people walking into the White House.
I
I
have
mean,
seen videos of, or I actually seen videos of people breaking the glass, trying to break into the House of Congress. Actually, yeah, there were people hurt. So even
well,
I
yeah, but
am
his
disturbed.
words
Yeah.
did not
Mm.
actually say, have an insurrection.
Well, it doesn't, but he did incite people to
Yeah.
motivate them to do it. So, oh, by the way, in case for you, I mean for you especially, Claire, in case you didn't know this, I was born in the States. I was born in San Jose, California.
Oh,
So that
right.
actually makes,
Do
yes, so
you
that
know
actually
the place in
that
San
actually,
Jose?
yes, that actually makes me an American. I actually have an expired US passport, because when I was around 9 years old, I had to go to the States to accompany my father, who was working in the States. So I'm a Malaysian, but the thing is, the US embassy told my father that since I was born in the States, why do I need to apply for a visa? So what they did was they gave me a passport instead. So I used my
Oh,
US passport to enter the States. Yeah, but the passport has expired now, but I
mhm.
believe I still have legal right to reclaim it. But I don't know. We shall see. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
because
can renew
yeah.
it at the
Well, Malaysia,
American
you see,
High
the thing is,
Commission.
that's a very delicate thing to do, because because Malaysia doesn't recognize dual citizenship. So
Oh, right.
if my government knows that I have renewed it, they will ask me to revoke my Malaysian citizenship, which I do not want. Yeah, that being said, we shall see in the
Mhm.
future how am I going to treat that. Yeah, I dare not say anything more than that in case they are looking at this video now. Right.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
something
Yeah. Yeah. On the
for the
US side,
future.
it's no problem for me to have dual citizenship, but the issue is on the Malaysian side. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
All right. Do you, I mean, the last thing I can tell you're maybe a little tired now
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
quite
Sorry
late
about that.
for
Yeah.
you.
Actually, yeah, because of my the the ridiculousness of the IKEA architecture has made
Mhm.
me tired.
Mhm.
Sorry, Claire.
Mhm.
I think I can't stay for long, but I am willing to answer your questions if you have any. Maybe for the next 15 minutes or so. Yeah, before I wrap this up. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Thank
before
you.
you
Thank
take
you.
us. Yeah,
My
yeah,
final question would be,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
Malaysia being an ethno-nationalist nation
yeah,
using Islam to
yeah.
promote its ethno-nationalism. Do
Yep.
you have anything to say about that?
Oh, I have a lot to say about that. Yeah, but in case the Malaysian police are watching this, I'll try to censor some things. Basically, it's like this. Okay. I just need to give a background, right? So, Malaysia is a country. It was ruled by the Malays. Okay. uh, we had a kingdom called the Malacca Empire. Okay, it was based at Malacca. Okay, today we know it as the state of Malacca, but before then it was an empire. It was based in it was a city state. So when the Portuguese came, they broke up this empire badly to the point that it split the Malay peoples into separate regions, and then there were many kingdoms that formed after that, many sultanates that formed after that. Then the Dutch came, and then the British came. Okay, then the British came. So when the British came, they saw the value of the land. They wanted to, with apologies to you, Claire, because I know you're a UK citizen, but the British government did colonize this land.
I'm aware.
So
Yes.
yeah, so basically they brought in cheap labor. They brought in cheap labor from China and from India to exploit the wealth of this land. So the native population, the Malays, were not happy about it, but they couldn't do about it. But it came to a point where the number of these immigrants from China and India became so large that the population became almost at the same level with the Malays, okay, the
Mhm.
Muslim Malays, okay.
Mhm.
And then I'm cutting a lot of the story short, okay. So then World War II happened, then the Japanese came, and then the Japs left, and then the British came back, and they formed the British administration, okay, over the peninsula. So let's not
Mhm.
forget that even when the British came, there were already many kingdoms. So when many Malay sultanates, okay, like Malacca, not sorry, not Malacca, Johor, Kelantan, Terengganu, uh, Pahang. So all these states that we have now that form the peninsula were all previously independent sultanates. See, so when the British came back after the World War II, they decided to have this grand project called the Malayan Union. So this Malayan Union project was intended to basically destroy the sultanates of Malaysia, to unify every single state under one British rule, and to give equal citizenship to all the peoples, the Malays, the Indians, and the Indians, the Indians and the Chinese.
Mhm.
So because of this, the Malays were not happy. I mean, you imported these people without our consent, without our permission, and now you want to give them citizenship. What right do you have? Right?
Mhm.
So obviously the Malays were outraged, and hence the unification of the Malays, and they started to protest against the British, and they called for independence. At the same time, there was a group of uh, people, okay, leftists, socialists. Unfortunately, most of them were from the Chinese race, because unfortunately leftists are often associated with the Chinese race, but that's not really true, because in Malaysia there were Malay leftists, there were Indian leftists, there were Chinese leftists. But the thing is, in the Malaysian history, this group of Malay leftists were predominantly Chinese, and they formed this party called the Malayan Communist Party. So this
Mhm.
Malayan Communist Party uh, launched an insurrection against the British government. This was was around the time when the British wanted to form the Malayan unit. Okay, so they actually managed to kill or to manage to assassinate the one of the governor generals of from Britain, Sir
Gottlieb,
Henry Gurney. Yeah, Henry Gurney. Henry Gurney. He was assassinated
Gurney.
by Henry Gurney. Yes. So because of this, the British realized that it wasn't able for them to continue ruling Malaysia, so they decided to acquiesce to the Malay demand for independence, but with the caveat that the Indians and the Chinese that they brought in before must still be given some form of citizenship. So the Malay leadership agreed. Okay, but the way that this was done does not really sit well with the population, the majority population of the Malays, and it has not until today. So okay, and then of course, racism is always in every culture, every nation. So
Hmm. Hmm.
this happens. Okay, I myself don't really agree with this particular bias towards the Indians and the Chinese, but but I'm telling you the reason why this bias happened. Okay, and then we gained our independence, 1957, and we managed to defeat the communists. We sent them into the jungle, back right to the north. We sent them back. We defeated them. Okay, so because the communists were mostly predominantly Chinese, the government of the day at the time, they dropped the idea that communists must be Chinese, Chinese must be communists, communists must be Chinese. The Chinese did, because the communists did do a lot of atrocities against the population, the Malay population. So it came to a point where the Muslims or the Malays began to hate the Chinese just because of this.
Hmm.
Even though the normal Chinese on the street probably don't even know what communists are, or don't even care what the communists
Hmm.
are. Okay, so fast forward 1960s, the grand plan for merger between Malaysia, sorry, the Malaya, right? Okay, 1957, by the way, is the independence of Malaya, the peninsula. So around 1960, there was a grand plan to merge Malaya, the peninsula, with what is now we know now as the states of Borneo, the states of Sarawak in Borneo, and North Borneo, which we know as
Hmm.
Sabah and
Sabah and
Singapore.
Sarawak.
Yeah, Sabah
Oh,
and Sarawak.
yes.
What we know now. Yeah, so Sabah was back then known as North Borneo, by the way. Okay, so
Hmm.
Sabah and Sarawak has a separate history, but I shall not go into that now. Okay, but basically, this idea was conceived by the first prime minister at the time. So he saw the idea of merger to be a great idea. Okay, so basically, long story short, in 1963, Malaya, Sarawak, Sabah, and Singapore merged to form Malaysia, one country
Hmm.
called Malaysia. Of course,
Hmm.
Singapore separated in 1965, but there's a different story there. But
Wh-
anyway,
Why was this?
sorry, you mean why Singapore separated from Malaysia?
Yes.
Also another can of worms, but basically it has also something to do with the racial biases that I mentioned earlier regarding
Yes.
the inherent dislike of the Chinese by the native population due to the historical circumstances that led to it, right? So
Uh-huh.
anyway, Asia, between 1963 to 1965, there was some racial disharmony there because the premier of Singapore at the time, Lee Kuan Yew, wanted he called it Malaysian Malaysia, meaning he wanted equal rights for all. Yeah, but the thing is, with
Hmm.
utter disregard for the rights of the native population, right? It's like this.
Hmm.
You are red Indian, you are living in America, and you are being denied your rights to certain rights, special rights. Same with the Maoris in New Zealand. Okay, same
The
with the Aborigines
Aborigines.
in Australia. Same thing. So the Malays consider themselves to be the sons of the soil, the Bumi Putra of the land. So what Lee Kuan Yew proposed was very dangerous for the peoples. What the Tunku did, the first Prime Minister of Malaysia did, was to just decide on separation. So Singapore was literally kicked out from the federation. Okay,
Hmm.
so fast forward again. fast forward again. So between 1965 to 1969, the Malaysian economy was mostly imbalanced because the natives were poor. Even though we were independent, the natives were poor.
Mhm.
We were hungry. We did not have jobs. Most of the economic wealth lay in the hands of the Chinese. So
Mhm.
a lot of resentment. And again, racism comes into play.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, racism does come into play, and I don't agree with it. But the thing is, because, like I said, because of this historical baggage, that is
Mhm.
why there's a lot of these issues coming up. So,
Mhm.
so it came to a head in 1969. A massive riot happened between the Malays
Mhm.
and the Chinese. Okay, we call it
Mhm.
the on May 30 was a very bad riot. It happened between the Malays and the Chinese. Okay,
Mhm.
so because of this rioting and the events that happened after that, the government in 1970 decided on an economic program called Dasar Ekonomi Baru policy, which aims to equalize wealth between races and everyone in this living in this blessed nation of ours here.
Mhm.
But the thing is, this program, although its intentions were noble, in the end, long story short, it was sabotaged by corrupt politicians. Okay, so okay, I need to mention also that right from the beginning of independence until 2018, Malaysia was ruled by one single dominant party called UMNO, okay, the
Mhm.
Malay Nationalist Party. So
Mhm.
UMNO was very good at drumming up ethno-religious sentiment, nationalist sentiment, exactly as how you asked just now. So
Mhm.
it was UMNO, or it is UMNO that actually instilled the idea in the native population that Malays equals Islam, Islam equals Malays, everything belongs to the Malays, the Chinese are this, the Indians are that. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So this has been the narrative in the country ever since. So
Yeah.
so combined with Dasar Ekonomi Baru (DEB) or New Economic Policy. So yeah, so hence where we are today. So that is why when you see, that is why, when I created this channel, and people, that's why when my company, that the company which sacked me for the reason of because it religious freedom and racial harmony, they were thinking in the context of this, in the context of this ethno nationalist ideology, okay, that this country has been mired in since even uh, before independence. Okay, so that's the reason why. So that is why they associate anything. That's why if I were to talk anything, if I were to discuss anything about religion, they always associate it with race. They will always associate it with ethnicity, even though that's not my intention. I somehow I get caught up into this. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with this, but this is how it is. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I know it's a racially
Mm.
sensitive issue because I think
Yes.
Zakir Naik got into a bit of trouble for
Yes,
saying
he did.
things about the
Yeah,
Indians
he
and the
did.
Chinese,
He
didn't
did.
he?
Basically what he said was very innocent. He said this. Okay, the Malays are the hosts of the house. The Indians and Chinese are the guests of the house. Why are the Indians and Chinese being disrespectful to the host? So that's pretty much his statement. Okay,
Mhm.
or he
Mhm.
was replying to someone actually along the lines of this statement, and this caused a huge ruckus, a huge fuss in the country
Mhm.
at the time.
Mhm.
So so that is why you see that is why you see today, you don't see Zakir Naik make Dr. Zakir Naik having open speeches in Malaysia at the moment, because he has been told not to, because he's still in the country. It's just that he cannot uh, speak up too much because of we also have is unfortunately we also have Islamophobic forces in the country as well. So these forces are also pressuring the government to shut him up. So unfortunately, this is happening. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think
Mhm.
Islamophobic forces forced Zakir Naik out of India, didn't they? Because they didn't
So
like what he said in India, because he's an Indian citizen, isn't he? Well,
sorry.
he was. Zakir Naik is an Indian citizen, and he was forced out of India because they wanted to
Yeah, he
prosecute
was.
him.
I think he
As a
was an Indian citizen. I think they revoked his citizenship, but I'm not sure. Yeah,
mhm, mhm.
yeah. But he does have a PR here, so he's a PR citizen of Malaysia. So yeah,
So he's safe now.
I hope so. I believe
Yes.
so. He has his apartment in is in Putrajaya. It's quite nearby to my
Right.
place. Yeah.
Oh, good. So you've met him, have you?
No, I have not because he's a very busy man. I know one of his students, a student of his who is very close to him, and I did ask whether he could help me arrange a meeting with him. But he
Hmm.
told me this: Zakir Naik has a very punishing schedule. The guy wakes up at 4 and
Hmm.
comes back home at 4. Basically, it's like
Wow.
this every
Hmm.
day. All right. So he in a day in 60 hours, he probably sleeps like around 10 hours to
Hmm.
12 hours. No joke, no joke. And he does this regularly. It's like his daily routine. It's very hard to keep up with him, and he's a very busy person. Yeah. So it's
Right.
not.
So he's still giving speeches up and down the country to Muslims.
I believe that he's handling his YouTube channel, and at the same time, he's still running his Peace TV network. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And I don't. Maybe you want to leave this for another time. I suppose I have just a little question about
Yeah, sure, sure. Go ahead. Just
Indonesia
one, I
because
think
you,
one
you
question.
come
Mm.
because you come
Yeah,
from
no,
well,
no, I
originally
don't come from
Bangladesh.
in. My ancestors came from what we now know as Indonesia. I didn't come from Indonesia. Please
You,
don't get
you
me
you were
wrong.
born okay. You were born in America, but all you know is
Yeah.
Malaysia.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
do
That's
you
right.
have anything to say about how the Indonesian government treats its minorities?
I think they have done very well actually in recent times to treat the minorities well. But personally, as a Muslim, I think there are certain things where they have gone overboard. Okay, because recently there was this ustaz. His name is Yahya Waloni. They arrested him for being critical of Christianity. They actually arrested him. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's right. That's the thing because they wanted to so-called taking care of the minorities' feelings. Yeah, so I find that to be disturbing because that wouldn't happen in Malaysia. Because and the thing is, Indonesia is supposed to be the most populous Muslim nation in the world, and yet you are arresting an Indonesian citizen who was freely expressing his views. He wasn't doing anything offensive. He wasn't tearing up the Bible or cursing Jesus's name or anything of the sort. He was just a normal guy like you and I, doing
mhm.
apologetics and basically dismantling the Christian ideology or the Christian theology. But he was arrested because of this. They actually put him in jail for 6 months.
Really? What did he
Yes.
say? What did he even
I
say?
don't I don't recall, but I think it's along the lines of what we both of us have said in the last few minutes about Christianity. It's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
what a shame. I mean, I think,
Yes.
that is, well, tragic
Yes.
because
Yes.
if we don't
Yes.
have free speech, then we can't talk through our problems honestly and rationally. And
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
and in
So
the West, where they are supposed to have this, they still can't do it properly because they're too afraid and neurotic to discuss these things. So, um,
exactly. Exactly. Hmm.
well,
Hmm.
I know it's very late for you. Thank you for dealing with all,
Yeah.
answering my questions. I hope we
Yes.
can speak
Likewise.
again.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope I can be invited on your show again. It's been great. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Well, anytime
Yeah.
you feel you want to get something off your chest, let me
Sure.
know, and I'll
Sure.
try to accommodate
And
you.
at the same time, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you on my show if you would like to come.
I would love to accept your
All right.
invitation.
All right. Okay. Sure. 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 I'll set
And
something up maybe in the next month maybe or the next week
yeah,
yeah. Mm, mm,
that would be great.
mhm,
Are you
mhm.
aware of the debate tonight between Daniel Hakikatju and Mark Collett?
Oh, I'm not aware of that. I didn't know this. Yeah, I've been busy outside with IKEA again. Sorry, it's
Ah,
all about
right.
IKEA today. It's all about IKEA today. Sorry, my day has always been is packed with IKEA. IKEA.
Yeah, you have to be assembling all your furniture now that you've got it back from the
Yeah,
shop.
exactly. Yeah, Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's basically Daniel Hagiculture, which whom you know is
Yes, of
Persian, but
course. Of course.
he's a
Yes.
Texan as well, and he'll be debating with Mark Collett, who's a British nationalist.
Ah, oh, is it the debate on white nationalism or something white, something white? I
Yes,
don't remember.
yes,
Okay, I think I came across the banner or something like that. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Mark Collett used
I
to
look
be a
forward to it.
member.
I
Mhm.
see. I look forward to it. So is this opponent that Daniel Hakikaju is debating a famous personality or someone you know?
He's somebody who was quite high up in the British National Party. So,
Ah,
you
okay.
know, I mean, the British National Party, it's basically kind of, like the Malays complaining about all these immigrants.
I'm not
So,
surprised. I'm not surprised.
so I think, I think wherever you go, whatever your race, you always be complaining about foreigners. It's like, who let them in?
Yeah,
Why can't they
exactly,
behave
exactly.
themselves?
I think every country has this problem anyway. I mean, the Americans are going to complain about the foreigners. Europe is going to complain about the foreigners. We Malays are going to complain about all foreigners. The Russians are going to complain about their foreigners. Even the Ukrainians are going to complain about the foreigners. So there's no escape. There's no escape. I mean, the Chinese are also going to complain about foreigners entering the mainland. So it's everywhere. This is a basic human concern, right? Survival. If you encroach on my land, of course I'll feel threatened. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
basic
and
human.
it's all about how many you should let in, how they should behave while they're in your country,
Yeah,
and
yes, of
and
course, of
I
course,
think
of
Islam
course.
kind of has the answer.
For me, as a Muslim, as someone who has been enlightened through Islam, I always like to call myself as a born again Muslim. By the way, so as a born again Muslim, I have tried to transcend myself above this, and I think I have become successful in this. So that is why when I related to you the story of how Malaysia came to be and how the nationalist thing came about, I do it with a real grimace and a real heavy heart because I don't agree with it. See, I don't agree with the the historical baggage that came with it. I mean, I believe that bygones should just be bygones, and we need to move forward together, and we need to come to common terms. You see, between all races, regardless. Yeah.
Yes. So
Hmm.
are you in favor of equal rights for non-Muslim Malaysian citizens, or is that
Yeah,
your
it depends.
position?
It depends on what you mean by rights, because if it's within the framework of Islam, yes, of course, of course. But I will, of course, not agree with non-Muslim prime minister, obviously, because I want the country to have an Islamic character. But I have no
Yes.
problems with giving rights to non-Muslims as it should be according to Islamic law, obviously.
As long as
Yeah.
they convert to Islam, because I think that this is how it works in
No,
United Muslim.
not necessarily converting to Islam. They can have the rights as they want, within the ambit of Islamic law. Yeah. Mm.
Because the situation, as I understand it, is that anybody who is not a Bhumi Putra can convert to Islam, but the rights don't kick in until their children, until they,
No, they don't get any rights at all. In fact, no, the rights only. You see, the thing is, that's the funny thing about the Bhumi Putra. You see, some people have the misconception that the Bhumi Putra laws here only favors Muslims, but the thing is, there are non-Muslim Bhumi Putras. So non-Muslim Bhumi Putras actually share the same benefits as Muslim Bhumi Putras, and it's not because Sabah and Sarawak have Bhumi Putras who are non-Muslim, who are still non-Muslim. Yeah.
ah.
So that's the thing. So it's a misconception to say that Bumi Putras equals Muslims, because that's not true in Malaysia, especially because we have Sabah and Sarawak, and the native population of Sabah and Sarawak are not Muslim. Mm.
So who are the non-Muslim Bhumi Putras?
Basically, it would be the Indians and the Chinese. Yeah.
Oh, they're considered Bhumi Putras in
No,
East
they are not.
Malaysia?
They are not. They are not. They are not considered Bumi Putra. In East Malaysia or in Sabah and Sarawak, we have the Dayaks, the Kadazan Dusun, the Ibans, the
They are
Melanau.
considered,
They are the Bumi
they are the
Putras.
Aborigines, right?
Yes, they are the Aborigines of Borneo, and some of them are not Muslims. Yeah, in fact, a lot of them are
Right.
not. Yeah, especially the Iban, they are not Muslims, but they are Bumi Putra.
I see. So,
Mm.
so it's all about how, okay. So, I guess in West Malaysia that there are all these Aboriginal tribes who live in in the jungle, in long
They are Bumi
houses
Putra.
or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those
So,
those
so they're
those who live in the
technically
tribe. Yeah.
Bumi Putra too.
Yes. Yes, they are. They are, and some of them are not
Oh,
Muslims.
that some of them are Muslims.
Some of them
Yeah.
Muslim and some of them are not. Yeah.
So I
Mm.
bet these people living, in the jungle, saying, "Oh, look
Yes.
at these, these Muslims. We were here before they did, and they took us over, and now they're telling us what to do in the
No,
jungle.
they,
But
they,
we
they
were
can't
here
they can't
before
do
them."
that. Well, they can't do that because they know that they coexisted together with the Muslims or the Malays since even before. They know that the Muslims also, the Malays especially, have ownership of the land or are also Bumi Putra like them. So it's equal. Yeah, it's equal in
Oh,
that sense.
okay.
Yeah, it's equal in that sense. Like I said, the contention has always been with the peoples that the British brought over from China,
Yes.
from mainland China and India. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, much to my sadness and my regret, it became a very contentious issue until today. Brought a lot of historical because of the historical baggage and a lot of ethnic
Mhm.
tension because of this. That being said, some of the individuals within these ethnic groups do play a part in Islamophobia as well. Okay, so
Yes. Yes. I can
so
imagine. I
so
can imagine.
so yeah, so it only inflames the racial tension. You see, so it doesn't bring any benefit. Yeah. So again, due to the historical baggage. Yeah. Mm,
Yes. Yes.
mm,
Well, thank
mm,
you very much. You raised so many interesting issues, which I hope we
mm.
can um,
Yeah.
go over
Yeah.
in future
Yeah. I
conversations.
thought we were supposed to talk about the debate I had with TJump, but we ended up
I
talking about
know,
Malaysia
right?
and Christianity and Britain and even the Ukraine war. Wow. There's quite a lot of topics, isn't it?
But I think it's nice
uh,
to introduce
yeah.
you as a personality with your
Yeah.
background and
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
and the yeah, we can talk about. I'll have to change the title of this stream then.
Sure, no problem, no problem. Anyway, and thank you for inviting me. Yeah. Yeah, I
Thank
think
you
I
for
have to go.
coming.
Yeah, I have to go now. I think. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right,
I'll hope to see you again in the near future. And yeah, I think I would love to invite you onto my own show. Yeah, in the near
great.
future as well. Yeah, I'll let
I
you
look
know.
forward to
Oh
that.
yeah, I have your email, so I'll let you know. Don't worry. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm. Yes,
Good night.
likewise.
Sleep
Yeah. Good
well.
night. Same to you. Yeah.
Bye.